Welcome to Conscious Movie Reviews. I'm your co-host Joy Davis, along with Shadra of the YouTube channel Elevate Consciousness. We're here to review the sci-fi film Interstellar. In the year 2067, a crop blight with dust storms had devastated the entire planet, making it uninhabitable. Farmers like the Cooper family were reduced to growing corn as the last viable crop. Many would eventually die from starvation and suffocation. Reminiscent of America's Dust Bowl of the 1930s, the global blight was an outer message that all humans on Earth are being forcibly uprooted like the dying crops. Corn is metaphorically associated with times of growth and fertility, but is now under threat, creating an ELE, also known as an extinction level event. Their dire situation shows that when our inner foundation is broken up, we're forced to move beyond our familiar habits and beliefs. It's a spiritual initiation to establish a new foundation with expanded awareness and follow a higher set of spiritual laws. Humanity in the film is doing the same to evolve beyond third-dimensional awareness. Many will leave the planet who are not ready for the inner and outer changes needed to get beyond the limitations of the mind. Transformation can be painful and seem terrifying. Before he took up farming, Joe Cooper was a former NASA test pilot and engineer. His approach to life was based on scientific reasoning.
Interstellar is a movie expounding potential theories on how science and spirit are one. The spiritual concepts it theorizes on are love, synchronicity, and God, by using scientific ideas of gravity, time, and higher dimensions. This is expressed from the very beginning of the movie when Murph says a ghost knocked down her lunar lander module from the bookshelf. Her dad Cooper tells her ghosts are not a very scientific idea. Ghosts are spirits, non-physical entities that represent the spiritual. Murph then replies, science is admitting what we don't know. Symbolically, she's communicating that science has been unable to explain or disprove spirit, an idea which is analogous to consciousness. In essence, spirit is consciousness with different connotations. And so far, the use of scientific method has not discovered what happens to our spirit, our soul, our consciousness after we die. Scientifically speaking, we don't truly know if the spiritual realm exists or not. Cooper explains to her if she wants to discuss the science of it, that she must record the facts, analyze it, and present her conclusions. If she wants to talk about spirit, she must provide evidence. The idea here is that perhaps one day we will use science to prove the existence of spirit, and the two will merge into one all-encompassing truth.
When his daughter Murphy announced that there's a friendly ghost in her bedroom, they found lines of dust on the floor. By Joe's estimation, it's from a gravitational anomaly left by the storm, but when decoded, they were GPS coordinates. Time is synonymous with dust in a symbolic way, like an hourglass. Dust storms can be seen as a disruption of time awareness. Spiritual teacher Paul Twitchell taught that time is really an illusion, a construct of the mind. Time and space are not the framework of nature, but the world of the sense perception. Time cannot exist without an observer, and what you see as objective time really doesn't exist. If time were real, it must involve change, and since there are no events except in the present when the observer is there, and this is always the present. The use of binary code, that's a two-symbol system of 0 and 1, was used to read the lines of dust. By adding a 2, you'd be able to work with complex quantum data. This is in line with humanity's potential to work with higher frequencies of light and sound, a quantum leap toward multidimensional thinking and believing. Following the GPS coordinates, the Coopers discovered a secret NASA base.
The NASA scientist asks how he found the place, and at first he cautiously describes the means as being supernatural, again indicating there is a spiritual force at work. The scientists are visibly excited when Murph says the anomaly that led them there was based on gravity. Later, as Romilly says to Cooper, NASA had been finding gravitational anomalies from 50 years prior, eventually leading them to their chosen plans to save the human race. Gravity is what helps them find the wormhole. When Senior Dr. Brand is trying to convince Cooper to help with the mission, he says, "Something brought you here. They chose you," indicating the random occurrences related to gravity are what led Cooper to NASA and are not random at all. It is synchronicity, it is serendipity, it is an aspect of reality that we don't yet understand. Again, indicating the definition of science broadening to include what were once thought of as spiritual concepts under the umbrella of science. In other words, science and spirit are merging to become one.
Professor Brand explained their mission to send a spaceship through a wormhole nearby Saturn to reach 3 potentially habitable planets, 2 of which are orbiting a black hole named Gargantua. Their end goal is to colonize a planet that would ensure humanity's survival. To their benefit, Joe just happened to show up at NASA's doorstep as the most qualified person to pilot the mission in the last minute.
Synchronicity is a concept that was introduced by famed psychologist Carl Jung, which describes events that are meaningful coincidences yet seem to have no direct causal relationship. It's an easy idea to dismiss, attributing such phenomena as the inevitable result of so many occurrences happening in existence. There would eventually be some incidences that occur in tandem. While logically this is true and definitely not all coincidences are meaningful, such logic does not disprove the idea. The greatest synchronicity of all is life and existence itself. Is reality and existence just a meaningless, inevitable result of a Big Bang, particles, waves, and molecules? Is love just the release of biochemicals in the brain? If such is the case, then the only meaning in life is to survive. But then, why does not survival alone bring happiness? Synchronicity is essentially what is leading the most important decisions throughout the movie.
Professor Brand's secret space program is similar to the United States Space Force, inaugurated by President Donald Trump in 2019, that bears the Star Trek logo, hinting of interstellar travel. Historically, America has had several space programs since the 1950s. Not including NASA, the secret ones were for the creation of exotic technologies based on quantum physics. Pete Peterson, a former Majestic 12 member, testified that Americans had already set up bases on 35 planets. The lines made in the sand and available wormhole near Saturn were strange gravitational anomalies to the scientific mind, but acts of benevolence by higher beings to the open-minded. By calling their earlier space mission the Lazarus Program, it supports the belief that God's will is helping you based on the Hebrew meaning of the name.
The senior Dr. Brand explains that they have 2 plans for saving the Earth. Plan A is for him to solve the gravitational problem of moving all of humanity and everything they need to survive off-planet. Plan B is to start a whole new civilization while those left behind perish from starvation and lack of breathable air. In Plan A, the gravity could also be seen as love, because solving gravity would save the entire human race. In the same way, solving the problem of love, the problem that lies in the heart of humanity, is the only thing we need to save ourselves. Imagine a world with no more war, no more competition for resources, a world where we saw each other as family and countries work together for the common goal of cleaning up the environment. Is there any problem that the combined people of the world, given all of our technology and manpower, could not solve if we could only work together, if we could only love each other? Cooper mentions hearing NASA at one point getting shut down because it wouldn't take part in the dropping of bombs on starving people. It seems only the threat of extinction was enough to get humanity to stop war with itself. The implication here is that humanity has yet to solve the problem of love.
Joe's decision to leave for the mission was difficult on his family, especially Murphy. He promised to return. She would eventually be under the care and tutelage of Professor Brand at NASA. For years, they worked on mathematical equations to somehow manipulate gravity for the mass evacuation of people from Earth. At 10 years old, Murphy was an ideal student for having a childlike sense of curiosity. When you observe without judgment, like children do, the secrets of the universe can reveal itself that's beyond the math to explore the realm of infinite possibilities, an interplay of frequencies pulsating from the energies of spirit.
One of the main concepts of the movie is gravity. And what is the spiritual counterpart of gravity? Gravity is love. When Cooper leaves the powerful pull of Earth's gravity, this is very similar to when he leaves the pull of his daughter's love. There is no physical force making it difficult for him to leave his daughter, yet in one of the most emotional scenes in the movie, he can hardly bear to leave her, for he knows he may never see her face to face again. Metaphorically speaking, is leaving Earth's gravitational pull any less difficult than it is to leave those whom we deeply love?
Piloted by Connor, the intrepid crew of Endurance included the robots TARS and Case. The first leg of their journey would be to traverse the wormhole nearby Saturn. Saturn is spiritually associated with time and is timeless. Other references to time can be seen in the way Case winds its arms and Endurance rotating in space, resembling the circular movements of a watch. It was imperative that the crew treat time like a limited resource because every hour on the planet is 7 years on Earth. This is from the effect of Gargantua's gravitational forces creating a time dilation. Back on Earth, Professor Brand asked for Murphy's forgiveness before dying. She came to realize that there was never any intention of going with Plan A. They were left behind on Earth to die. Murphy was convinced that her dad knew all along, so she confronted him about it in a video transmission. After some harrowing ordeals on the planets of water and ice, the remaining crew pressed on with little fuel left.
At one point, Dr. Brand says, the only thing that can move across dimensions like time is gravity. She later states, love is the one thing we're capable of perceiving that transcends dimensions of time and space, and hypothesizing love is an artifact of a higher dimension. Gravity is the force which pulls objects together, and it is the magnetic force that likewise draws people together. This force of love is what pulls Dr. Brand to find her lover, Wolf Edmonds, on the third potentially inhabitable planet. Cooper argues that love is just an instinct programmed within us as a social utility, so that we will have children and work together. Dr. Brand replies we also love those who have passed on, and there is no survival utility in that. So love is about much more than just survival of our bodies, survival of our species, survival of the physical. It has a deeper meaning that science alone may be unable to as yet determine.
Joe calculated that by doing a slingshot maneuver around Gargantua, Dr. Brand can reach Edmonds' planet. Then he can drop into the black hole with TARS to access the data needed by his daughter. He knew it would cost him 51 Earth years due to the time dilation. As the ship reached the event horizon, that is the edge of the black hole, this scene resembles the vast, dark void of the inner worlds. It's a boundary between the etheric plane and the pure positive worlds of God, where duality does not exist. Only the bold and adventuresome can cross. Inside the black hole, Cooper floated within the tesseract to peer through the lines and see his daughter in her bedroom at different Earth times. He made attempts at communicating by pushing her books to the floor and leaving lines of dust with sand. Created by benevolent beings, the tesseract is a representation of how you can operate within the fifth dimension. Cooper not only transcended the mental constructs of time, he was also in two places at once, affecting both the spiritual and physical worlds. Even though she could not see him, Murphy felt a familiar presence as proof that distant objects and people are inextricably linked. There is no separation. Renowned intuitive Sonia Grace describes our living in the fifth dimension as duality splitting apart because we're in a higher frequency. The future is shifting and moving like liquid. You can manifest more easily. Cooper realized their purpose by saying, it's not a ghost, it's a gravity. We're the bridge to the 3D world. This helps to explain that we not only have a physical gravity that pulls our attention to what we value in life, but we're also affected by spiritual gravity that acts upon the psyche as an incessant call toward the invisible. And as we draw nearer to the source of this call, it becomes stronger, teaches Guruji Ma. We make the collective shift by joining the physical gravitational pull with the spiritual so that there's no longer a separation. Data collected by TARS was relayed to Murphy's watch by Morse code. It was the naked singularity needed to finally crack the gravitational equation and ensure humanity's survival. At Cooper Station orbiting Saturn, an elderly Murphy was reunited with her father before dying. He made good on his promise. My special thanks to Shad Ra for sharing his insights about the film. You can get his extensive review of Interstellar by going to his channel on YouTube.
Thank you, Joy, for having me here at Conscious Movie Reviews. To hear the full analysis of Interstellar, please check out my YouTube channel, Elevate Consciousness, Elevate spelled E-L-A-V-8. This has been Shad Ra. Peace up and elevate consciousness constantly.